So I traded my silver big block 55 Chevy two-door sedan for this. My 55 mechanically was fantastic. I mean, built engine, transmission. I did the Ford 9-inch, 48-inch ladder bars, suspension. Very, very fast car. But the body wasn't great, and it had a little bit of rust in it, and the guy was aware of that. Anyway, I traded for this, which was supposed to have a new big block in it, and a Tremec transmission and a Ford 9-inch. Well, unfortunately, the big block wouldn't run above idle, and absolutely gutless. Backfired anytime you tried to give it gas. And it had a Borg Warner T5 in it, rated for 145 horsepower. So the minute I got the engine running, that wouldn't have been able to handle even a fraction of the power. And it had the original 55 back axle in it. So in some ways I was a little bit disappointed, but the car itself was very straight and a nice solid car with almost zero rust in it. So I obviously was going to have to spend a lot on this car to make it work and be able to take the power. So I proceeded to buy a lot of parts for it, and I was going to give it a total makeover, which you will see in the preceding video and pictures of the car. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I have put some pictures of some of the parts I've used, and maybe that will help some of you guys if you're sorting out your 55 Chevy. I was really happy with how it came out, and I wasn't trying to build a show car or anything. I was just trying to build a car which was mechanically very sound, which I could, get on it and not worry about breaking anything, and be very durable, and also go in a straight line under power. And as I guesstimated that this could make anything up to 800 horsepower, I needed to be able to put that power to the road. So anyway, you'll see how I proceed with my build. Oh, and I had to keep it cold. That's a big problem. You see all these cars and they look fantastic, and people's got big blocks in them and this, that and the next thing, but you can't drive them because in 5 minutes they overheat. Very few people get these cars to run cool enough to actually drive more than
I took all these fans
to a car show.
Anyway,
here we go.
And I'm going to put a 60 gallons per minute electric water pump on here, and that'll change a few things. And then I'm putting a whole aluminum framed, much larger radiator with double 3500 CFM fans, and I'm also putting in a 220 amp alternator which will run my fans and water pump even faster. So that should keep everything nice and cool. But once I've got this apart, I'm going to take my front suspension apart, and then I'm going to clean up all in here immaculately and repaint it. Probably repaint my engine and get it all looking new, detail the blower, etc. And then I'll start putting it all back together again.
So this is episode 1. I think I'll do this one in 2 or 3 sections, and I wanted to get the engine running first, and there was a list of many things which I instantly saw which was wrong with the engine, and so I proceeded to fix them. In fact, I'll get the list out so I can read down the list of the initial things which I had to fix to get the engine running fine. But having said that, looking over the parts in the engine and this and the next thing, it looked like the story was true, that the engine was new, but it was probably new 12 years ago. And I traced that the guy who owned it for the last 13 years was a really old guy, and I've had this on a few of my cars. They have this idea that they want a really fast car and they put a huge engine in it, but they, it's still got the same original suspension and transmission in it and little axle, which
the fan.
none of that.
There's no
can
way
take
you
the
need
power.
that many wires.
And they
for
never
the
get
fan and
the
AC.
engine
One wire to the
dialed
AC.
in correctly or put in correctly.
One wire to the
and
fans.
they just lose faith in the project. And it
I
just
guess
sits
it's
there.
powering the fans. As
Anyway,
well,
you know, the engine oil was good. Scoping the
I'm
cylinders,
taking
you know,
everything
looking in
off
there, and the
so that
rock
I
covers
can,
stuff. Everything looked brand new in there.
Once I get the suspension
and
off,
the compression
I can totally
was
clean up in
through
here,
the roof. So
repaint it.
you know,
paint
internally the engine was perfect.
And
it just
I'll
had been built
change my spark plugs, put new leads
and
on,
not finished.
and,
so at least I had a
take my
really
suspension
good
off and redo that,
starting point.
paint it, and it'll all be good.
And you'll see how I proceed
Right,
with
so
getting everything working.
I've taken everything off that I want to take off. I'm going to take the wiring back and probably rewire everything because it's just such a mess. I'm going to take my suspension off next, and then I'm going to clean the hell out of everything and repaint the frame and the engine and make it look all clean. And I might, when I pull the leads off and the spark plugs out, I might pull the headers off and put new header gaskets on. And I can get to it quite easily right now. And then I'll put everything back together again, detail the engine, and then start putting all the radiator in. So these go to my lights. That's got to be pretty simple. I think these connect the front side lights, so I'll have to rerun this wire. And I'm putting a new alternator in. So I'll have to see where the main power comes in from the front, because I need to take a live feed from that for a lot of my components. Upper A-frame shims on the passenger side. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the back, and none on the front on the passenger side. And on the driver's side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the back, and 1 on the front on the driver's side. Yeah, as far as rust is concerned, this car seems as solid as a rock. Just obviously hasn't been cleaned since it came off the production line. So now I've got the opportunity to clean this in here and repaint it. Now, once this is all cleaned and painted, I'll kind of be starting with a clean slate, and I'm going to try and do my wiring really nice, but I'll hopefully I can work it out. I don't know who makes these heads.
They're going to be like circuit boards. This is moving the magnetic resistance to error. That's correct.
I had some wheels lying about which Maximilian gave me with some bigger tyres on. They were still too small for the car from the width point of view, and the offset wasn't right, but at least it got the car sitting a little bit more how I liked it. And I put some bucket seats in initially, so I had some decent seats to put in it. Had kind of the old-fashioned type interior in it, like original, which I hate that type of interior. It just makes the car look like such an old person's car. You know, not that I've got anything against that, but for me, you know, I want it to be more race oriented. So I'm trying to establish exactly what transmission's in it. You know, I was disappointed to see that it wasn't what I thought it was, but it looks like it turned out to be a Borg Warner T5, which is rated for very little horsepower. It's got really light components in it, and as you'll see in a later video, the minute I got the engine running good, I didn't even get round the block. I gave it a little bit too much power and broke the transmission. Having said that, the transmission was working perfectly, changing gear nicely, smooth, and I just slowly got into it more and more and gave it a little bit of gas, and that was too much for it. So for anybody who's out there who's put quite a lot of power in a car with a T5 transmission and think that they're going to get away with it for a while, think again, because it really is not strong enough to take any kind of serious power. But very nice transmission if you haven't got a lot of power. But yeah, I learnt my lesson on that one. I thought, oh, I'll get away with it for a while. Well, I didn't.
Looks okay. The top of the plastic box had separated from the bottom, but seems okay. So I'll unbolt that tomorrow and just make sure the gears aren't damaged or anything.
Sorry about jumping all over the place with some of my videos, because when I made these videos or took these pictures, I never really intended to do a YouTube channel.
It's going
just
good.
kind of documenting what I'm doing.
I spent $15,000 on bits to go on it.
What I've got right now. I'll
So,
improve as I continue.
Right now I'm just cleaning underneath it and getting everything ready, and then I'll start putting everything, paint it, and then I'll put everything back on. I'll have to change, I guess because they were only getting half throttle on it, they reversed these pulleys because they weren't getting enough boost. But now that I will get full throttle with the new gas pedal and stuff, the boost will be like far too high, so I'll reverse these pulleys back round, which is where they're meant to be, and that will give me about 6 pounds of boost, which will be correct.
So the more I look into
hope you're
this
enjoying
engine
your car.
and how the car's put together, the more I think that they just had the engine block built and then they brought other components, because most things were put on incorrectly. So, yep.
Okay, this is underneath my blue 55 Chevy. Before I've painted it, I've pressure washed it, I'll scrape it, wire wheel it, clean it up, weld in all my suspension parts, put in the new A-arms to the front, and then repaint it. So put in a 48-inch ladder bars and a 4.9-inch axle, the 370 gear, Hotchkiss sway bars. I'm going to be lining up to centralize my axle, and so I've taken a mark with a spirit level, put it on the floor, lining up with this edge here, and it so that gives me a mark there, and I've done basically the same thing on this side. So I've also marked this the same on this side, and I've taken exactly the same measurement from that side, from here to here, and it looks like the same. And then I've measured from here to here, and it measures exactly the same on each side. So yeah, that looks like my central line. So I'm going to put the axle on the stand and centralize the axle on here, and then I'll take some more measurements and see if I can get it perfectly centralized. Alright, so I've determined the exact center of the wheel well and marked it and hang a string down, and then I did the same on this side, and I measured from the front and made sure they were both exactly the same, and then I line up the back axle to the approximate height I want it. And from my 57 Chevy over there, it seems like you're looking at about 10 to 12 inches there, and I want it to be fairly high with a 30-inch tire. So anyway, I've got it in the approximate position and it's centralized. And all I'm trying to do right now is determine where to mark my cross member, because this gets wider and wider towards the back. So I want to make sure I cut this at the correct width, obviously. So I need to know the distance from there to there with the ladder bars. So I put this in place. I centralize this circle to the lowest point of the center point of this, and you know, as near as it needs to be. I think that's fine. And then I put the brackets on one of the ladder bars so that I can hold it up to the axle and get the cross member exactly the right distance from the axle, and then mark it to cut it, and then I can actually do it on the floor how they tell you to, and weld it, tack weld it in place, and then put it back up, make sure everything's aligned, and then weld everything correctly.
Because I never really intended to do a YouTube channel originally, I don't explain things as good as I think I should. So I think in my future videos, when you see me build things, I'll be quite a lot more informative and highlight some of the issues that you come across when you're building it, and give better information. But right now, this is kind of the best I can do.
I've installed my ladder bar and axle and everything, so everything's kind of tack welded in, and I'll have Dave finish welding it all because he welds very neatly. And then I can paint it all after cleaning the frame. I kind of welded this but didn't do a great job. Anyway, I'll have Dave go over it a little bit. And so this is the cross member with the ladder bar brackets built into it, and then this is angled at 2 degrees lower angle than the output shaft of transmission as per instructions, 4 to 2 degrees. 4 degrees with leaf springs, 2 degrees with a ladder bar kit, because the engine, like the axle, likes to torque up under hard acceleration. This is the panhandle bar, that's hot, so I need to put a bushing in there, and this keeps the axle centralized. The axle is presently at its ride height. The shocks are sitting in the box over there. I took them out so I could sit it at the right height. That's the cross member bar for the shocks. And once I get that all painted, I'll install my axles and third member and the drive shaft and the shocks, and then the wheels, and then this will be ready to go.
On this car, because there was potentially 800 horsepower in it, I really wanted to brace everything like extra strong, because it's obviously pretty amazing how much force can be put on something like the back axle or something. So that's why you see all the bracing I've done on it. Now, you would assume that when you buy a back axle kit from somewhere like Speedway or something, that all the components bolt together correctly, but that is not the case. I had to drill out all the holes in the housing of the axle to fit the third member in there, because the studs that they provided are too big to go through those holes. And it's a little bit disheartening when you get to that point and you find out you can't get the studs through because you think you're doing something wrong. And it takes a lot of research to find out what the problem is. But if you know the problem before you start, it's very easy. And I think in this case it was a 25 by 32 bit. I don't know exactly what it was. But anyway, once I got the right drill bit, I just drilled them out. It was quite quick, and used a pulling tool to pull the studs through, and that worked great. I had the same issue with the Curry axles. They're a bit bigger, and the nose have to be drilled out, the holes have to be drilled out to get the studs in those. Anyway, a lot of things like that, just really irritating. But if you know what you're doing, it's quite easy. Sometimes the bearings and stuff come installed on the shafts, but these didn't, and you have to press the bearings on with that collar there. And even though I had a decent press, because it wasn't perfectly even, I just could not get it done. So my buddy Roger at Dependable Drive Shaft did it for me, and I mean, his machine didn't even think about it. It pushed it on so easily. So anyway, that's something I had to take to my buddy's place to get done. But nice drive shafts. Also, for some inexplicable reason, you can't get the Posi Traction third member with a decent sized yoke on it. I think it came with a 1310 yoke, which really isn't beefy enough for a lot of horsepower. So I brought a 1350 one, and it really isn't that hard to change them. You actually see in one of my videos I show how to change that, but you basically unbolt the one that's on it, pull it off, and when it was on the car, I just bolted the 1350 yoke onto it and torqued it to the right spec, and it was good to go. I also had Roger at Dependable Drive Shaft make me a heavy duty chrome moly drive shaft to be able to take a lot of horsepower. I think it was rated to 1200 horsepower. But I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there, because I talk about that later in the video, and you'll hear about it then.
I've built up, and the suspension that I've done for my 55 two-door hardtop, and I put 48-inch ladder bars in there. I put disc brakes on it. I got the housing from Speedway Motors. I welded all these brackets on it. They finished the welding for me. I put the disc brake kit on it from Summit, and with my brake lines. And all I have to do now, I cut off the old emergency brake tabs, shorter, drilled holes in them, and now I just have to do a cable to the center there, so my emergency brake works. Parking brake.
Now you have to remember your pinion angle is really critical, and generally you put it 1 to 2 degrees lower than the output of the transmission, because as you put power on it, it torques up a little bit, but something you need to think about.
My back axle's done now. I braced the crossbar. I braced these to make it stronger, and I had my emergency brake line set up. It's just touching the drive shaft, but I'm going to adjust this down a little bit, but this will go up 2 inches, so that won't be an issue. This is a Speedway 56-inch axle with a gear type 370 Posi. Who makes the Posi? Posi is made by... I can't remember right now. Anyway, it's Curry axles. I've got Curry axles in it, and Alden adjustable shocks. Now, I had to drill the holes out for the housing are slightly bigger to the size of the studs, but there's a drill size recommended. But it was actually quite easy. And then the disc brakes came from Speedway, and because the performance axle was slightly bigger, I had to Dremel the center out, but it only took me about 8 minutes, just quickly going around it, went on. But then the nose of the bolts came out a bit too far, so this wasn't seating properly, so I had to drill these out so that this could sit over the nose. But as long as you don't overdo this, that's what actually centralizes the wheel. Same on this side. See, this goes over the bolts. But see those, if you look in there, you can see that the nose stick out of it. So, but anyway, so yeah, very happy with it. I kind of really wanted to paint the calipers, but I might do that with a paintbrush. Get some enamel or something.